Hello and welcome to the Theosophical Society's National Capital Lodge, Washington, D.C. And today our program is presented by Susan Johnson, and I'm going to introduce her in just a moment. But first, we're going to begin with our presentation of the invocation by Annie Besant to just set the state for our meeting. And if everyone will go ahead and mute themselves, I will go ahead and read it, and you can read out loud along with me. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may all who feel themselves as one with thee know they are therefore one with every other. Thank you. And so let me introduce Susan, who is, well, where do you live, Susan? I guess you're in Wheaton? No, you're in Ojai.
I'm in Crotona now.
Yeah,
Just
okay,
recently.
okay. Lucky you. So, okay, so Susan Johnson is the library manager for the Crotona Institute of Theosophy in Ojai, California. She's been a member of the Theosophical Society since 1986 and has facilitated the Santa Cruz Theosophical Study Center in California since 1997. Susan is also a licensed acupuncturist who teaches a Taoist form of traditional Chinese medicine worldwide. She is most at home in nature and loves music, plants, animals, Japanese brush painting, feng shui, and the study of comparative religion, especially from a non-dual perspective. And so we are very happy to have you and really looking forward to your presentation. And I will just turn the meeting over to you. And what I will do is spotlight you for everyone. And hopefully everyone can see Susan clearly. And please take it away. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much, Desiree. Thanks, Susanna. We're going to do a little bit of a hybrid class today because I'm not a PowerPointer. So I don't have a PowerPoint for you guys, but I do have a Qigong exercise. So I'm hoping that you'll all get up out of your chairs. You can turn your camera off if you want or not. And just do a very quick Qigong exercise with me to bring causal consciousness into your body. So I would much rather give you an experience than only a lecture. So I'm hoping that you can feel what it's like when we harness universal chi and bring it into our brain. So what you're going to do, I'm going to lift my computer up onto a different stand and stand up behind me. My Qigong teacher never told us what anything was for, how anything worked. He didn't want us using our imagination to create a fantasy. But I'm going to tell you a little bit when we're doing this particular movement, because if you can do it relatively correctly, and it's not that hard, then we can bring that universal chi we bring our arms up over our heads. Well, I'll stand up and show you. And then we bring that chi that we've gathered between our hands into our forehead. And then we bring our fingers down to just below the nose like this. And then exhale down, dropping our knees just a little bit. So I hope that some of you will join me, right? So that I'm not just standing here entertaining you. Okay. Because that could be kind of funny, actually. So stand up, give yourself just a little bit of room. And what we're going to do is bring our arms from next to our bodies. We're going to just bend the knees a little bit. Sit down with your tailbone just a little bit. And then bring your arms up over your head, scooping up universal chi to between your hands. Can you feel that? Feel that between your hands. And then bring it down into the forehead. Bringing the fingers down, touching just below the nose, and then exhale, come down. And then up again. So we're going to do this together. Now, 9 is the highest yin for women, and 8 is the highest yang for men. So the men will do it 8 times and the women will do it 9 times. And let's begin now. Gathering the chi. Bringing it into the forehead. Fingertips touching just below the nose, and then exhale. Okay, guys, drop out. Thank you. So if you do that a few times a day, you'll feel a difference. But you might have to tune in and get used to it and cultivate it a little bit. But it will be there. Anytime you really need some chi in your hands, that's what we do. Bring it in. Okay, so today's talk is radical compassion, also known as radical forgiveness. What is radical compassion? Well, I have a whole table full of notes because I'm teaching the same class in December at Crotona. I hope some of you will join me. It's 2 hours a day, that's all, starting November 28th through December 2nd. So I have all these different components that I want to bring in to each day of class, but today is a teaser for you guys, and hopefully you'll want to come and get some more. So last night I really hadn't written anything and was hoping I wouldn't be too nervous and could keep my senses, but decided that the last minute I better take some notes. So I'm actually going to read you what I wrote last night. And then intermixed, at one point, I'm going to jump into something that Jeffrey Hodson delivered at a lecture to the Blavatsky Lodge in 1961. And then a little bit later, I'm going to give you some headliners from a class I took with a wonderful Lama, Geshe La. The Geshe Lamas are the high scholars in Buddhism. So this was a 4-day class on radical compassion. And then I'm going to, at the end, do an embodied presence short meditation by Tara Brach, modified a little bit, and then also give you a couple of quotes at the end of that. So probably after finishing the talking part, before we do the meditation, I'll see if anybody wants to ask any questions, because once we do the meditation and I read a couple of short quotes, I think I'd like to just close the meeting without too much talking, because I want you to be able to hold on to what you get. So if that's okay with our hosts. All right, so what is radical compassion? Well, radical compassion is taking responsibility and recognizing that everything that happens to you is happening for a reason. We may not know what that reason is, we may not understand it, but if we recognize that we are shaped and conditioned by everything that happens to us, we must accept that our psyches have been conditioned, not only in this lifetime, and like a little sponge when we're like 0 to 4, but ever since, and also over many, many lifetimes before. The more we identify with this part of the self that believes it is the body, the thoughts, the feelings, then we must conclude or concede that now I have to read my writing. That the breaking of this identity is the purpose of our time on planet Earth, and that whatever happens to us has been created by this false identification with the ego for the purpose of our awakening. Our personality is not our self. We have two choices, really. If we have the ability to step into the eternal self, the causal consciousness, then we find ourselves freed from choices and planning in a spontaneous, motive-free existence, as Jeffrey Hodson put it. There is freedom from effort, from strain, because we are identified not with the individual self, but with the eternal now, the absolute. However, most of us, most of the time, relinquish this God-given freedom for the sense of I-ness we attained by evolution from the group soul through the process of individualization. Now, if we can just get curious about the individual, watching what happens, almost like a movie, we will notice that the animal part of us does have preferences, likes and dislikes, desires and fears. But if we can simply retain that curiosity without believing ourselves to be chained to everything being in a particular way, then we can actually have it all, be it all. We must choose to identify with the spiritual mind, which is responding to the silent awareness behind it. That silent awareness is the higher will, the Atman, the presence that makes things happen, but not by force, simply by its presence, universal will. Always one, but for a while confused with the mind. The sense of I-ness was a great miracle of nature, said Jeffrey Hodson. But later on, this must gradually be surrendered to a kind of spiritual intuitiveness of group consciousness or unity once again, he says. It is the breaking up of the restriction imposed upon one.
You're hitting your mic.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Jeffrey Hodson says, it is the breaking up of the restriction imposed upon one as an individual being which lets causal consciousness in. This breaking up is not a mere negative incident, but quite a positive one, fraught with significance, because it means an infinite expansion of the individual. In causal consciousness, you cannot think of an edge or a limit. The whole universe, as it were, is in you, and you are in that. To be released from this personal sense of enclosed, self-separate existence makes one feel above all things intensely elated. It is like being always at the apex of a triangle where the original inseparability and unity ever exists, instead of being down at the two angles of the base. Time is left behind, replaced by what is called duration. That is time without limits. It is all going on always, without the divisions of past, present, and future. It is all always here. Past lives to the ego are not past lives at all. They are continuing experiences, because for the ego, there has never been a break in consciousness. Space limitations vanish also, for there is no geography at the causal level. Everything is here, now. This absolute oneness of things is realized in spiritual awareness. It is an attribute of causal consciousness, which is completely selfless. There is no I and mine as something separate from you or yours. There prevails an unrationalized but fully experienced unity in which the idea of separateness cannot arise. It is very valuable to get that down here, because so much of our suffering comes from the accentuated state of selfishness. Now I'm going to change that word to self-consciousness. Okay, maybe selfishness fits, but we also have a negative connotation to that. So what he's really talking about is being self-conscious. The more we can get away from it and universalize our consciousness, the less we are vulnerable to the hurts and the pains of life. If we will practice this regularly, day by day, something will begin to draw us into that state, which is such a happy and uplifted one. And if we keep on, not only will we enter into our own inner serenity and peace, but we will gradually be able to lift others, perhaps those in stress and trial, sorrow and bereavement, and sickness, out of their earthly life, if only for a time, into that condition of being, that inner sanctuary of the soul. I thought this was one of the most beautiful pieces I've read of Jeffrey Hodson's. So this was a lecture, again, delivered in 1961 at the Blavatsky Lodge in Sydney, Australia. I remember, back to me, many years ago in an Advaita class with Ed and Pablo, we were given the exercise of walking outside in nature, first imagining and then realizing that the whole of your surroundings were happening inside of you, rather than the other way around. That you were not walking in nature, but that you were nature, and all of what was happening was within you. It quite flipped my reality, actually. Now, I can't recommend doing that walking down a busy city street. Too much stimulation. But just try it sometime when you are out in nature, preferably by yourself. Reality changes when you feel it all within the one. Notice how animals, birds, trees, plants, even rocks simply are. They are spontaneously here and now. They don't have to try to be. They cannot be otherwise. They are utterly in the moment. So we can do that too. Feel the simple freedom of it. The only difference is that we know that we are aware, and they just are. Just feel into that awareness and stay there. Practicing, we can increase the time we stay in awareness. We will end our time together with a short meditation on embodied presence, bringing that home. So remember, some time ago I said there were two choices. Well, the second choice is to get all tangled up in the personality, which is what most of us do. Let's face it, it's a small set of people who can have these types of conversations, right? So a number of years ago, 7 probably, I started this process of trying to understand pain with Pablo's class on anti-besence, the meaning and use of pain. Well, that brought me to Colin Tipping's radical forgiveness. Then the most wonderful Lama named Geshe-la, the Geshes are the high Lamas who are highly respected scholars, teaching chapters 6 and 8 of the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by Shantideva. I will now give you a few highlights, headers from that class, and these will be notes that I use in a great deal in the class at the end of November. Geshe-la says, one flash of anger can spoil everything. We know this, right? Anger is like holding on to a hot coal. The longer you hold it, the more damage it does. What fuels your anger? The internal enemy is the only enemy. If there is no solution, why be unhappy? Holding on to a grievance is like taking poison and hoping that the other person dies. That was one of the Buddha's quotes. Samsara and accepting adversity, seeing the positive in adversity. These are all headliners for Geshe-la. Karmically created conditions, blame karma. Good advice. Do not make others feel guilty. The key in training is not to be offended. Separate yourself physically, but not emotionally. Remember, when we needed help, when we needed others' compassion for our hurting them. Injury comes to me because in the past I have hurt others, taking responsibility with no hard feelings. Give freely to the thief, he says. They will deserve less negative karma. They will derive, not deserve. They will derive less negative karma because they are taking what is already theirs. We are the lucky ones at their expense. There are two sides to everything. There is the wounding, but there is also the weakness. Is it criticism or advice? Don't take it into your heart. Excuses for allowing the mind to misbehave. Why are you not upset when they slander your enemy? Your enemy has friends and family too. Stop creating even more pain through angry speech or mind. Quickly do a mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. Or he said, Om, let go, so ha. I love that one. Stand up for bad qualities, but praise their good qualities. See the enemy as the most kind. Develop bodhicitta for all sentient beings. To develop perfect patience and overcome anger, who provides this best? The enemy. Love the enemy as you love the Dharma. Both contribute equally to our practice. The enemy is the most precious. Remembering that the enemy is actually the internal enemy. So in this process that I started with Pablo's class on pain, which by the way, he's doing again right now, and you can still get in on that if you're interested. It's a wonderful class based on Annie Besant's The Meaning and Use of Pain. But I noticed that 7 years later, it's a completely different class. So both were wonderful, are wonderful. So starting with his class, and then I found Geshe-la and his chapters 6 and 8 of the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And then I found Tara Brach and Radical Acceptance, which is the same topic, basically. Knowing that everything that comes to you is for a reason and that we need it. Then I found Peter Russell. Peter Russell, I highly recommend. He did actually a TSA one-day webinar last year that was fantastic. So you can actually go to TSA and probably find that course and that recording. But he has a book called Letting Go of No Thing. Letting Go of No Thing. I gave it as a Christmas present to everybody last year. So I'm going to read you just a little bit from Peter Russell and from the class that I took with him. I think he's doing maybe another class soon for TSA. Somehow I remember seeing something about that, so that's possible. This chapter was called Accepting Your Experience as It Is. Accepting your experience as it is does not mean accepting injustice, cruelty, homelessness, etc. Each of us must do what we can to improve the world situations for the benefit of all sentient beings. Accepting things as they are means that you accept what is happening in this moment. If it is anger, frustration, injustice, whatever it is, you accept that it is. Don't resist, deny, or wish it weren't so. Our present experience is as it is. Resistance is futile. Resistance is suffering. Just allow it and stay with it. If we do that, you'll notice it softens. Thinking takes us out of the present moment. It veils the peace of mind that comes from simply being. We fall from grace into human doings instead of human beings. We look for happiness and joy in the things that we do or the things that we have. This is like looking for your lost key under the street lamp because there's more light there. We do not need to do anything or go anywhere to find inner peace. The mind is in its natural state. When the mind is in its natural state, it is already at peace. We simply need to let go of our attachment to how things should be. Accept our experience as it is, without resistance or judgment, and there we find the peace of mind we've been seeking all along, our natural state of grace. When I was packing to come to Crotona, I found a pad of paper and I was really happy to have a blank pad of paper. And when I turned it over, I discovered it was Pema Chodron also teaching the Bodhisattva Way of Life, Chapter 8. She called it Don't Bite the Hook. A wonderful recording if you can find that. I think it's on discs. You can probably find it on her website. So throughout this studying of pain and consciousness and trying to figure myself out or figure it out or that out or whatever you want to call it, there was continuous input from Annie Besant's Doctrine of the Heart, one of my favorite books and one that I loan out in the library. As soon as it comes in, I give it to somebody else. Jeffrey Hodson, wonderful author, timely, preaching to the choir, I'm sure. And then back to Pablo teaching another round of the meaning and use of pain. More recently, I've been studying Thomas Hübl. Thomas Hübl is teaching now about the necessity of clearly seeing and appreciating how multi-generational trauma is being acted out 3 or 4 generations down the line with no awareness that that is what's happening whatsoever. And so it is impossible to heal without this awareness. He teaches how bringing in marginalized, lost, or immigrant family members disconnected from their tribe, even if they are long gone, can heal and explain traumatic experiences that are being witnessed and also endured by great-great-grandchildren. How this is how it was shapes lives, though most are unaware of that. So if you want, come to my class and we'll talk a lot more about, for one thing, Shantideva's very honest and very intelligent arguments for trying to help our minds to align in cooperation with the eternal higher self, so that we can start having fun, or at least stop resisting this wonderful life we've been given the option to experience without pain. Pain is optional. I took a screenshot from one of Pablo's classes the other day, talking about the function of pain. So I just wanted to read you a little bit of what I think Annie Besant is probably responsible for this quote. One of the functions of pain is the organization of the vehicles. Pain makes the person exert himself, and by that exertion, the matter of his vehicles gradually becomes organized. Another function is that pain purifies. We try to get rid of that which causes us pain. Another is that pain teaches. And the last is that pain gives power. Power is pain transmuted. Hence, the wise person, knowing these things, does not shrink from pain, for it means purification, wisdom, and power. So I'd like to pause now and just see how we're all doing, take a little temperature read before we move into a guided meditation.
Thank you, Susan. I'll just point out that JD added something to the chat there, a comment. If anyone wants to take a look. I'm really enjoying, these thoughts in your presentations comes into my mind. Open it up for any comments for Susan.
Well, I have 2 questions. The one is, or one comment and one question. The one is your class going to be offered via Zoom too? Is it going to be hybrid? Okay.
Yeah, it's a hybrid Kratona class. 2 hours, it'll be 10 to 12 Pacific time, Monday through Friday.
Okay. And the second comment I wanted to make, it was so interesting when you said to go outside and to experience, like, not to see nature, but to try to feel nature. Elizabeth Heich, in her work, Initiation, which I love, I remember when she had to go to the temple and do exercises. And one of the exercises is like to sit there, hug a tree, and then become the tree, or whatever she was focusing on, becoming that. So thank you for pointing that out and reminding us of that.
Yeah, it's a particular way of moving through the world where it's not that you don't see nature, but you see nature within your own scope of awareness. And that kind of opened up a lot of things for me. I mean, it's just, it sounds, I don't know how it sounds to you guys exactly, but for me, when I actually practiced that outside, walking down the street, all of a sudden my consciousness expanded to I don't know, to the infinite, I guess. And all of what was around me was actually inside me. It was actually a part, I was that. Instead of being the human being, I was the human all experiencing. And I think that's a worthy, just try it out. Just try it out and see what happens. It can change you. It changed me permanently, that one thing. And that was probably, I don't know, 7 years ago, something like that.
Well, you could do it right now. You don't have
Yes. Yes, you can do it anytime, anywhere. But somehow it's easier for me. It was easier for me to be in a setting. Like, for example, after that exercise, I did go to downtown Scotts Valley where I used to live, and I was not comfortable being the all in the city. That was a little hard. I mean, I can do it now probably, but at that time I didn't feel safe. But being in nature, I felt completely safe and at ease. So I would just say that.
A good place to start. Stephen, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I'm wondering, Susan, if you can comment on how you see sentience or sentient being and how that's changed. I feel like that's part of the very key to your comments.
Thank you, Stefan. I actually probably have a different experience of that than a lot of people because of my profession, because I'm professionally an acupuncturist. So my whole orientation is towards feeling energy and working with chi. So way back, I started working before acupuncture. When I was 20 something, I was very interested in stones, all kinds of stones, not gemstones necessarily, but I studied geology. Actually, in college, I was a geology person for a couple of years until I realized I'd have to work for oil companies, and I didn't want to do that. So I jumped out of geology, but not before studying crystallography, crystal systems, the Grand Canyon, and all different layers, so that I could look across a landscape and understand what I was seeing. So for me, sentient includes rocks. Now, I am a rock hound. I love rocks. My house is covered with rocks. Outside's full of rocks. Because they're beautiful to me and I understand them. I have a knowing about rocks, but I also love plants and animals and humans and chi and manipulating chi. So for me, when I work with clients, I'm working with people who have a disruption in the flow of chi. And for me, that means using the tools that I have, which happen to be needles, which are simply an agreed upon modality. Okay, we have an agreement, myself and the patient, that I'm going to put a needle in and I'm going to do something with that needle that's going to change something in your shoulder or something in your hip or something in your brain, you know. And when I do these things, the chi shifts. But we don't need a needle, really. We only need an awareness. We only need a willingness to connect with others. So how I would answer your question, Stefan, is that you can connect with anything. You can connect with everything. And even a rock has a consciousness. So I have plants. I have a 30-year-old plant. I have a 40-year-old plant. I turn around and show you my 40-year-old plant, but my kitchen table is such a mess, I'm not going to do it. That's where I was working last night. So anyhow, people have energy. We have an energy field. When we did that exercise, first thing we did was feel the energy of gathering that universal chi between the hands, agreeing that that's what we're doing. All right, the mind is very powerful. The energy is very powerful. It's beyond the mind even. So when we scoop that up and bring that into our brain, and then release down. We're harnessing that universal chi for our own use between the hands. If you put your hands together or almost together, you can feel energy. You can go as wide as you want. I used to go to the dowsing convention every year with my dear beloved Byron Bowl. He was a dowser. He was a 32nd degree Mason and an old time theosophist and a priest in the liberal Catholic Church. And he loved dowsing. So I would take him to the dowsing convention every year. Well, one time I went up to this table, this person who had all these different dowsing tools. And I decided I was going to not play a trick, but I was curious about, well, it was a little bit of a trick, but I was curious about his tools and how good they were. And so I sucked up my energy all the way as tight inside as I could. I pulled it all the way in. And I went up to his table and I said, that's an interesting tool. It was a kind of a boingy little dowsing rod. You know, they have L rods and Y rods. Well, this was an L rod, but it had a spring on it. And so I said, so what does that do? And he said, well, it measures your aura. And I said, okay, measure my aura. And he got out his boingy tool and he came closer and closer to me. And then he got this horrible look on his face. And he said, you don't have an aura. And I said, I'm just kidding with you. I'm just messing with you. Okay. And then I said, and then I threw my aura as far back as I could, as far as wide as I could in that moment, within reason, you know? And I said, okay, now measure my aura. And I started backing up and I got to about 200 feet away and he found at the edge of my aura. Literally. I mean, you can play with your chi. You can play with your energy. You can use your energy for good. You can use your energy for ill. Okay? We do that a lot. We do it by accident, or we do it because we're not paying attention. We can do terrible things. I've done terrible things. Even recently, I did a terrible thing. I'm still trying to recover from that. But I did it by accident because I lost my conscious awareness of my higher being. And I paid a really heavy price for that, I'll tell you. So anyhow, we can use our chi. We do use our chi. We use our chi all the time. In every thought, in every word, in every action, we use our chi for good or for ill. So long answer to easy question. Did that actually give you an answer? Or is there more that you were looking for, Stefan?
No, it's an excellent answer. Thank you.
Welcome.
You, Carol Lee, hand up.
Carol Lee, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, many years ago, I took a class, Silva Mind Control.
Oh,
And in that class, we worked with the different levels, the alpha levels and various levels of consciousness in meditation. And one of the exercises that was done was that we were to be a flower and then once we were to be a tree. And I could actually feel the rain on the petals of the flower. I could be that flower, and it was such an amazing experience. It was early in my theosophical days, and I was unfamiliar with much of what was happening, and I was so enamored with that. And then when they said be a tree, that was really special. So you can be in anything in nature that you want, and you can be it in your living room. You don't have to, you could be it more in nature, but you can also be it in your living room. And it is a fabulous experience to be the energy of that object. So thank you.
thank you, Carol Lee.
Any other questions, comments? Okay,
How
Sue,
about a little meditation?
sounds good.
Just one thing, you said you didn't want anything else to happen after meditation, right?
Right?
That's right, and that's fine. We just wanted to announce, I hope you can join us then next week. The recording will be shared by Desiree and me. And next week, our Ed Moskowitz from the Wheaton Lodge is going to talk about non-duality, and we're looking forward to it.
From the
Yay.
universe.
Oh, non-duality,
Nice.
okay, good. Okay.
Well, and that ties in well to the comment in the chat from JD. So I look forward to that conversation.
Actually, is JD still here? Yes. Would you like to read your comment, JD?
Sure. This came out of the Trip to the Infinity. It's a video right now on Netflix, so you may want to go out and visit it. It is mind-blowing to an extent. And I quote, "The universe may be infinite, but even if it is not, the observable part of it is just an incomprehensibility, tiny part of the whole. Any spot in the universe can be considered the center with equal validity. Indeed, you may be the center of the universe."
Thanks, JD. And I have to add on to that, actually. I'm over here in DC, and years ago went into, one of those videos you can sit in the Space and Air Museum, and they have movies where you're like in the bubble. And I was surprised at the point to learn that scientists have, gone into all these different parts of space with their, whatever, these things they send out to observe. And no matter where they put it, the universe is expanding beyond that point. So it's not like, oh, you're over here and it's expanding that way, but if you move over there, it's coming toward you. No, wherever they put it, it's expanding beyond whatever point they observe from. So there is no, like this says, everywhere is the center of the universe. So that's more likely that, yes, indeed, we are the center of the universe. And people told me I was crazy to believe that. No, okay. I'm the center of my universe. Anyway, so thank you. Fascinating.
Well, you are the universe. That might be the better way of saying it.
I'm working on that magic,
Oh, you already got it. You were born with it.
And so since you don't want to say anything anymore, us to say anything anymore, thank you so much for taking the time and coming here and sharing your wisdom.
Oh, my pleasure, absolutely. And it's not that I don't want you to say anything. I want you to hold on to the experience of the meditation without going into thought, if you can. So I'm going to lead you through, this is a Tara Brach meditation. It's very short. And then end with the Bodhisattva prayer for humanity. The meditation is called Arriving in Embodied Experience. Please sit in a relaxed yet alert way. You might close your eyes or let them be downcast. Begin with 3 conscious, full breaths, inhaling long and deep, filling the lungs. And then exhale slowly, sensing a letting go of any tension in your body and mind. And again, nice, long, deep in-breath. Then a slow exhale, relaxing, letting go. And again, inhaling deeply. And then a slow, smooth out breath, letting go, letting go. And now resuming a natural rhythm of breathing. Scan through your body, noticing if you can further soften and relax any areas of tightness or holding. You might let your eyes be soft and your brow smooth. A slight smile on your lips, allowing the jaw to relax. Sense if your shoulders can drop away from your neck. And then feel the shoulders from the inside out, softening, relaxing. Let your hands rest in a very easy and effortless way. You might soften your hands and feel the aliveness in them. Let your chest be open and feel into this next breath, received in a softening belly. This breath. And now this breath. And again, feeling the sensations in your legs, in your feet. Widening the attention. Feel the aliveness of sensation through your whole body. A field of sensation. Noticing if there are any strong feelings or emotions, and breathing with the experience. Includes sound. Letting your senses be wide open, so you're listening to and feeling the whole moment. Notice the changing flow of sensations, feelings, sounds, aliveness, and also the background presence that's here. Become aware of the alert inner stillness. This awake inner space of presence. As you're ready, gently open the eyes, but continue in that state of presence. In cultivating living compassion today, during moments of stress or reactivity or preoccupation, just pause explore taking those 3 full breaths. And then simply notice the sensations in your body, the feelings, all the sounds around you. If something is intense, breathe with it with a gentle attention. And just notice the shift in the quality of embodied presence that can happen with a short pause. And then when you resume activity, resume it with increased presence. So at least 3 times today, do that sacred pause. The Bodhisattva's prayer for humanity. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened.